सलवात।
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। अल्लाहुम्मा रब्ब शहर रमज़ान अल्लज़ी अंज़लत फ़ीहिल क़ुरआन वफ़्तरज़्त अला इबादिका फ़ीहिस सियाम सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद वरज़ुक़नी हज्ज बैतिकल हराम फ़ी आमि हाज़ा व फ़ी कुल्लि आम वग़फ़िर ली तिल्का ज़ुनूबल अज़ाम फ़इन्नहु ला यग़फ़िरुहा ग़ैरुका या रहमान या अल्लाम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अल्लाहुम्मा इन्नी अफ़्ततिहु अस्सनाअ बिहम्दिक व अंत मुसद्दिदुल लिस्सवाबि बिमन्निक व अयक़नतु अन्नका अंत अरहमुर राहिमीन फ़ी मawdi'il अफ़्वी वर्रहमा व अशद्दुल मुआक़िबीन फ़ी मawdi'in नकालि वन नक़िमा व अअज़मुल मुतजब्बिरीन फ़ी मawdi'il किब्रियाइ वल अज़मा। अल्लाहुम्मा अज़िनत ली फ़ी दुआइका व मसअलतिक फ़स्मा या समीअ मिदहती वाजिब या रहीम दअवती वाक़िल या गफ़ूर असरती फ़कम या इलाही मिन कुर्बतिन क़द फ़र्रजतहा व हमुमिन क़द कशफ़तहा व असरतिन क़द अक़लतहा व रहमतिन क़द नशरतहा व हल्क़ति बलाइन क़द फ़ककतहा। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी लम यत्तख़िज़ साहिबतन वला वलदा व लम यकुल लहु शरीकुन फ़िल मुल्क व लम यकुल लहु वलिय्युम मिनज़्ज़ुल व कब्बिरहु तकबीरा। वलिल्लाहिल हम्द। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि बिजमीइ महामिदिहि कुल्लिहा अला जमीइ निअमिहि कुल्लिहा। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी ला मुदाद्द लहु फ़ी मुल्किहि व ला मुनाज़िअ लहु फ़ी अम्रिहि। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी ला शरीक लहु फ़ी ख़ल्क़िहि व ला शबीह लहु फ़ी अज़मतिहि। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल फ़ाशिफ़िल ख़ल्क़ि अम्रुहु व हम्दु अज़्ज़ाहिरि बिल करमि मजदुहु वल बासिति बिल जूदि यदाहु अल्लज़ी ला तनक़ुसु ख़ज़ाइनुहु व ला तज़ीदुहु कसरतुल अताअ इल्ला जूदन व करमा। इन्नहु हुवल अज़ीज़ुल वह्हाब। अल्लाहुम्मा इन्नी अस्अलुका क़लीलन मिन कसीर मअ हाजतिन बी इलैहि अज़ीमा व ग़िनाका अन्हु क़दीम व हुवा इंदी कसीर व हुवा अलैका सहलुन यसीर। अल्लाहुम्मा इन्ना अफ़्वका अन ज़ंबी व तजावुज़का अन ख़तीअती व सफ़हका अन ज़ुल्मी व सित्रका अन क़बीह अमली व हिल्मका अन कसीर जुर्मी इंदमा कान मन ख़ताअ व अम्दी व अतमअनी फ़ी अन अस्अलका मा ला अस्तौजिबुहु मिनक अल्लज़ी रज़क़तनी मिन रहमतिक व अरैतनी मिन क़ुदरतिक व अर्रफ़तनी मिन इजाबतिक फ़सिरतु अदऊका आमिना व अस्अलुका मुस्तानिसा ला ख़ाइफ़न व ला वजिला मुदिल्लन अलैका फ़ीमा क़सदतु फ़ीहि इलैका फ़इन अब्ता अन्नी अतबतु बिजहली अलैक व लअल्ल अल्लज़ी अब्ता अन्नी हुवा ख़ैरुल ली लिइल्मिका बिआक़िबतिल उमूर फ़लम अरा मौलन करीमा अस्बर अला अब्दिन लईमिन मिनका अलय्या या रब। इन्नका तदऊनी फ़उवल्ली अन्क व ततहब्बबु इलय्या फ़अतबग़दु इलैका व ततवद्ददु इलय्या फ़ला अक़बलु मिनका कअन्ना लिअततव्वल अलैक फ़लम यमनअक ज़ालिका मिनर रहमति ली वल इहसानि इलय्या वत्तफ़द्दुलि अलय्या बिजूदिका व करमिक फ़अरहम अब्दकल जाहिल वजुद अलैहि बिफ़ज़्लि इहसानिक। इन्नका जवादुन करीम। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मालिकिल मुल्क मुजरिल फ़ुल्क मुसख़्ख़िरिर रियाह फ़ालिक़िल इस्बाह दय्यानिद्दीन रब्बिल आलमीन। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि अला हिल्मिहि बअद इल्मिहि वल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि अला अफ़्विहि बअद क़ुदरतिहि वल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि अला तूलि अनातिहि फ़ी ग़ज़बिहि व हुवा क़ादिरुन अला मा युरीद। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि ख़ालिक़िल ख़ल्क़ बासितिर रिज़्क़ फ़ालिक़िल इस्बाह ज़िल जलालि वल इकराम वल फ़ज़्लि वल इनआम अल्लज़ी बअुदा फ़ला युरा व क़रब फ़शहिदन नजवा तबारक व तआला। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी लैसा लहु मुनाज़िउन युआदिलुहु वला शबीहुन युशाकिलुहु वला ज़हीरुन युआदिदुहु क़हरा बिइज़्ज़तिहिल अइज़्ज़ा व तवाज़अ लिअज़मतिहिल उज़मा फ़बलग़ बिक़ुदरतिहि मा यशाअ। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी युजीबुनी हीना उनादी व यस्सिरु अलय्या कुल्ला औरतिन व अना आसी व युअज़्ज़िमुन निअमत अलय्या फ़ला उजाज़ी फ़कम मिन मौहिबतिन हनीअतिन क़द अअतानी अज़ीमतिन मख़ूफ़तिन क़द कफ़ानी व बहजतिन मूनिक़तिन क़द अरानी फ़अुथनी अलैहि हामिदा व अज़्कुरुहु मुसब्बिहा। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी ला युहतकु हिजाबुहु व ला युग़लक़ु बाबुहु व ला युरद्दु साइलुहु व ला युख़य्यबु आमिलुहु। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी युअमिनुल ख़ाइफ़ीन व युनज्जिस सालिहीन व यरफ़उल मुस्तज़अफ़ीन व यदउल मुस्तकबिरीन व युहलिकु मुलूकन व यस्तख़लिफ़ु आख़रीन। वल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि क़ासिमिल जब्बारीन मुबीरिज़ ज़ालिमीन मुदरिकिल हारिबीन नकालिज़ ज़ालिमीन सरीख़िल मुस्तस्रिख़ीन मौदिअ हाजातित तालिबीन मुअतमिदिल मुअमिनीन। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी मिन ख़श्यतिहि तरजुस समाअु व सुक्कानुहा व तरजुफुल अर्दु व उम्मारुहा व तमूजुल बिहारु व मन यस्बहु फ़ी ग़मरातिहा। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी हदाना लिहाज़ा व मा कुन्ना लिनहतदिया लौला अन हदानल्लाह। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहिल्लज़ी यख़्लुक़ु व लम युख़्लक़ व यर्ज़ुक़ु व ला युरज़क़ व युत्'iमु व ला युत्'म व युमीतुल अहया व युह्यिल मौता व हुवा हय्युल ला यमूत बियदिहिल ख़ैर व हुवा अला कुल्लि शैइन क़दीर। اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم صل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. وصل على سبط الرحمة وإمام الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي. وجزك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله الداعية إلى كتابه والقائم بدينك. استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبل. مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيت له. أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك وما لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وعزز به وانصره وانتصر به وانصره نصرا عزيزا وافتح له فتحا يسيرا واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملنا وما قصرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم المم به شعثنا واشعب به صدعنا وارتق به فتقنا وكثر به قلتنا وعازز به ذلتنا وأغن به عائلنا وأغض به عن مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به خلتنا ويسر به عسرنا وبيض به وجوهنا وفك به أسرنا وانجح به طلبتنا وانجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وأعطنا به سؤلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وأعطنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين. اشف به صدورنا وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا. فصل على محمد وآله وعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجل وبضر تكشف ونصر تعز وسلطان حق تظهر ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسنها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم برحمتك في الصالحين فأدخلنا وفي عليين وارفعنا وبكأس من معين من عين سلسبيل فاسقنا ومن الحور العين برحمتك فزوجنا ومن البلدان المخلدين كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون فأخدمنا ومن ثمار الجنة ولحوم الطير فأطعمنا ومن ثياب السندس والحرير والاستبرق فألبسنا وليلة القدر وحج بيتك الحرام وقتلا في سبيلك فوفق لنا وصالح الدعاء والمسألة فاستجب لنا. وإذا جمعت الأولين والآخرين يوم القيامة فارحمنا وبراءة من النار فاكتب لنا وفي جهنم فلا تغلنا وفي عذابك وهوانك فلا تبتلنا ومن الزقوم والضري فلا تطعمنا ومع الشياطين فلا تجعلنا وفي النار على وجوهنا فلا تكببنا ومن ثياب النار وسلابل القطران فلا تلبسنا ومن كل سوء يا لا إله أنت بحق لا إله إلا أنت فنجنا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المحتوم في الأمر الحكيم ومن القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل أن تكتبني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم المشكور سعيهم المغفور ذنوبهم المكفر عن سيئاتهم وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري في خير وعافية توسع في رزقي وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل بي غيري أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلة هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إلهي وقف السائلون ببابك ولاذ الفقراء بجنابك ووقفت سفينة المساكين على ساحل ببحر جودك وكرمك يرجون الجواز إلى ساحة رحمتك. إلهي إن كنت لا تغفر في هذا الشهر الشريف إلا لمن أخلص لك في صيامه وقيامه، فمن للمذنب المقصر إذا غرق في بحر ذنوبه وآثامه. إلهي إن كنت لا ترحم إلا المطيعين، فمن للعاصين وإن كنت لا تقبل إلا من العاملين، فمن للمقصرين. إلهي ربح الصائمون وفاز القائمون ونجى المخلصون ونحن عبيدك المذنبون، فارحمنا برحمتك وعاتقنا من النار بعفوك يا كريم يا أرحم الراحمين. صلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم ادخل على أهل القبور السرور، اللهم اغن كل فقير، اللهم اشبع كل جائع، اللهم اكس كل عريان، اللهم اقض دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشف كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر، إنك على كل شيء قدير.
Thank you so much. I didn't have any tea today. Thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلوات وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. تقبل الله أعمالنا وأعمالكم. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your fasting and your a'mal. Carrying on with our topic of an overview of Nahjul Balagha. In our previous session, we spoke about the sermons, the khutab of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and I selected parts that are related to Tawheed, creation of the universe, and creation of creatures like animals. I also covered the topic of Ahlul Bayt and Khilafah and mentioned some of the sermons of Imam Ali in that regard. And then I also covered the topic of akhlaq in the khutbahs of Nahjul Balagha. Today I will be speaking about the letters of Imam Ali in Nahjul Balagha, and this is a very kind of straightforward session tonight because it's just having a look at the letters of Imam Ali. And then on Friday night, tomorrow, we will be commemorating the Shahada of the passing away of Sayyida Khadija alayha salam. But then on Friday night, I will be coming back to this topic and giving a presentation on the wise sayings, the hikam of Imam Ali alayhi salam. In regards to the letters of Nahjul Balagha, we have already explained that there are 79 letters from Imam Ali, and they are all during his Khilafah or very early to his Khilafah, and they cover a variety of topics. I'll be sharing the list with you soon. But if we want to be more technical, there are letters, there are instructions, there are wills, wasaya, and there is one which is a dua, which is letter number 15, right? Interestingly, even though they have various topics, but a lot of it is him admonishing, criticizing those who are around him. And that's where you can really see the pain that Imam Ali was enduring throughout his Khilafah. Just remember, my brothers and sisters, that it was a short span. His Khilafah did not go on for very long, 5 years and a little bit. And he had 3 major battles, 3 major wars with the mushrikeen, no. With the Jews or the Christians, no. They were with fellow Muslims. And one battle was worse than the other. And that's why for us, we find it very, very difficult to so easily be able to sweep these events under the carpet. The atrocities that were committed, the heinous crime of violating the sanctity of the Muslim Ummah is not something that can easily be forgiven or forgotten by simply saying, oh yeah, but you know, at least they were Muslim, or it was just a little fitna and we need to get on with our lives and not be worried or thinking about this anymore. It's shocking and surprising that there are some who still not only think good or positive of Muawiyah, but praise him as well, and think that he is free of any criticism or responsibility. I don't want to go into this topic of the immunity of the Sahaba or the theory of the immunity of the Sahaba, that all the Sahaba, all the companions are beyond criticism, cannot be criticized, cannot be spoken ill of, because they attribute a hadith to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that says, "Ashabi kan nujum," my companions are like stars. بِأَيِّهِمْ اِقْتَدَيْتُمْ اِهْتَدَيْتُمْ. Whichever one of them you follow, you will be guided. Ya subhanallah. Yani if I was to be following behind, at the time, if I was to be following behind the likes of Khalid ibn al-Walid, who did what he did in killing the companion Malik ibn Nuwayra, Muawiyah being responsible for killing literally hundreds of the Sahaba. Of course, our definition of Sahaba, our definition of companionship is companionship. Their definition of Sahaba is whoever saw the Prophet and was a believer is by default a Sahabi. Even if they committed what they committed before their Islam, after their Islam, during their Khilafah, they cannot be criticized. And we know this to be something in defense of them, because it is literally impossible for any sensible person to follow someone who has a long list of criminal actions. Muawiyah, if he was living today, he would also carry that same status of what it is that you can see in these Arab countries where their khalifas, their rulers, are beyond criticism. The Mufti of Saudi Arabia said on public television that if you were to see the ruler committing haram, committing zina, na'udhu billah, on top of the Kaaba while drinking alcohol, you still cannot object, you still cannot criticize. So therefore it comes to no surprise that when Muawiyah prayed Salatul Jumu'ah on a Wednesday, the Muslims had absolutely no problem with that. All of this contributes in us understanding the mindsets of these people during this time, contributes to the massacre of Ashura, and why Imam Hussein alayhi salam did what he had to, even though he lived under the Khilafah of Muawiyah for a long time. He lived under the Khilafah of Muawiyah for a long time. Muawiyah was in rule. Muawiyah was in power for a very long time. For 20 years, he was the governor of Sham. For 19 years, he was the 6th Khalifa, considering in what we believe, of course, and what is historically mentioned, that Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam was the 5th Khalifa, even though his Khilafah lasted only for a few months. But they were living under the Khilafah of Muawiyah. Why is it that all of a sudden, with the coming of Yazid, Imam Hussein did not allow not even one day for him to stay quiet and not create this uprising that he did against Yazid? And that's why 13 letters to Muawiyah, all of them related to Muawiyah's corruption. I will be sharing an example of this. Is really, really devastating and sad. All of this shows how mazloom, how oppressed Imam Ali was, and how oppressed Imam Ali is. If you remember what I said a few nights ago, I said if there are a lot of Sunni ulama who object to the authenticity of Nahjul Balagha, and I said, if this was something written by Muawiyah, there would be absolutely no objection whatsoever, because none of them objected to Muawiyah introducing the la'an and cursing of Imam Ali that lasted for a long time. So the problem is not cursing. The problem is not violating the haqq of Allah or the haqq of people. The problem is Ahlul Bayt. These are some of the, this is the list of all of the letters in Nahj al-Balagha. I'm not going to read them out. Can you come a little bit closer so you can do the reading for me, please? Yep, Mr. Reciter. I'm not going to get Ahsan to do it because then he'll be reading it so fast. No, I'm not going to read these. I'm just showing them to my brothers and sisters, and then we will start with reading, using some examples of the letters. Again, as I said, technically 66 were letters, and then you had instructions, and then one of them was a dua. Okay. I'm going to share letter number 10, which was a letter that Imam Ali alayhi salam wrote to Muawiyah. Please pay attention to the adab, the manners of Imam Ali when he's speaking to Muawiyah, how he is just giving him advice and trying to somehow awaken this person's soul, but no use.
Letter 10 to Muawiyah. What would you do when the coverings of this world in which you are wrapped are removed from you? The world attracted you with its embellishments and deceived you with its pleasures. It called you and you responded to it. It led you and you followed it. It commanded you and you obeyed it. Shortly, an informer will inform you of things against which there will be no shield to protect you. Therefore, keep off from this affair. Take heed of the accounting on the day of judgment. Get ready for death that will soon overtake you, and do not lend your ears to those who have gone astray. If you do not do so, I shall recall you to whatever you have forgotten, because you are a man living in ease and luxury. Satan has taken you in his clutches, secured his wishes in you, and taken complete control of you, like your soul and blood.
Thank you. One of the things that we are also very proud of is with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they embodied the teachings of Islam in its entirety, especially and in particular at times of difficulty. Now, me and you, for example, we show our politeness, our respect when we are nice and happy and cool and calm. But the only way that you can know my level of akhlaq is at the time of my anger, when I'm angry. It's only when I am angry where you will see my true side. With Ahlul Bayt, them being, of course, at the highest level of anger in the battlefield, but you never saw them, for example, behaving in such a way that violated any type of moral, ethical requirements as a Muslim or even as a human being. Even when it was at the most heated time in any of the battles, even in Karbala, there was no sense of revenge or no mutilating of bodies or none of these things, because all of these things are considered as haram. The best example is what you can see in the Battle of Siffin, when Imam Ali alayhi salam had the upper hand in access to the water, and he gave the enemy's soldiers complete access to the water as well. But they didn't do the same thing. And the same thing with Karbala as well. So this is also, a window into what we are able to learn from the akhlaq of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, even with his enemies, when it comes to the nights of the martyrdom of Imam Ali in another 10 days or so. One of the things that we frequently hear is when Amir al-Mu'mineen was on his deathbed, one of his main concerns whenever they brought him something to eat or drink was if they were also taking care of Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam. This, requires a very high level of akhlaq and tolerance for you to be so concerned about someone who just tried to kill you. But then we have our selves, and if someone was to beep a horn at us in a car, how much road rage we will get into, because it is that beeping of a horn is like as if they insulted our whole tribe and our whole ancestors and lineage. To his soldiers before the Battle of Siffin. Again, I mentioned this yesterday. I mentioned it before. I'd like to say it again. The rhythm and the beauty and the eloquence and the balagha is in the Arabic, not in the English, not in the Farsi, not in the Urdu. Not in any other language. The rhythm and the balagha and the beauty of the words chosen miraculously by Imam Ali is in its original Arabic.
Do not fight them unless they start the fighting, because by the grace of Allah, you are right. And to leave them till they begin fighting will be another point from your side against them. If by the will of Allah the enemy is defeated, do not kill those who flee away. Do not strike a helpless person. Do not finish off the wounded. And do not inflict pain on women, even though they may attack your honor with filthy words and abuse your officers, because they are weak in character, mind, and intelligence. We have been ordered to avoid them, although they may be unbelievers. Even in pre-Islamic Jahiliyyah period, if a man struck a woman with a stone or a stick, he was rebuked along with his posterity after him.
Ahsantum. This is also something very, very useful, where Imam Ali gave instructions in a wasiyah to his son Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam, after they had camped in an area called Al-Hadirin after the Battle of Siffin. And this is something that I would recommend every young boy and girl to read. This is, we can say, a letter to the youth. A letter to the youth. Ask your family members, those who are of teenage age, to read this particular letter. Number 31, because it's just full of advice in how a person is able to stay upright in his or her direction in life and overcome the difficulties that they may face while preserving their integrity and religious beliefs.
I admonish you to fear Allah, O my child, to abide by His commands, to fill your heart with His remembrance, and to cling to hope from Him. No regard is more reliable than the regard between you and Allah, provided you take hold of it. Enliven your heart with preaching, kill it by renunciation, energize it with firm belief, enlighten it with wisdom, humiliate it by recalling death, make it believe in mortality, make it see the misfortunes of this world, make it fear the authority of the time and the severity of some changes during the nights and the days. Place before it the events of past peoples, recall to it what befell those who were before you, and walk among their cities and ruins. Then see what they did and from what they have gone away, where they have gone and stayed. You will find that they departed from their friends and remained in loneliness. Shortly you, too, will be like one of them. Therefore, plan for your place of stay and do not sell your next life for this one. Give up discussing what you do not know and speaking about what does not concern you. Keep off track from which you fear to go astray, because refraining from moving when there is fear of straying is better than embarking on dangers. Ask others to do good, and you will thus be among the doers of goodness. Discourage others from evil deeds with your own actions, as well as speech, and keep off to the best of your ability from whoever commits it.
Ahsantum. Carry on.
O my child, when I noticed that I was of goodly age and noticed that I was increasing in weakness, I hastened with regard to you my will to you and wrote down salient points, lest death should overtake me before I divulge to you what I have in my heart, or lest my wit should be affected just as my body has been, or the forces of passions or the mischiefs of the world overtake you, making you like a stubborn camel. Certainly, the heart of a young man is like an uncultivated land.
So this is a beautiful expression by Imam Ali alayhi salam, where he says, the heart of a young teenager is like kal ard al khaliya, is like a uncultivated land. Ma ulqiya fiha min shay'in qabilathu. Whatever you plant, whatever you put into this uncultivated land, it will accept, it will take.
So I hasten to mold you properly before your heart hardened and your mind became occupied.
Isn't this the best time to mold ourselves, when we are young, when we can change, when we are still growing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Why is it, my brothers and sisters, that this prime time in introducing a religious identity to our sons and daughters is taken up and occupied by focusing on school and university? Although school and university is extremely, extremely important, but why is it that that becomes the person's priority and not engaging in the community or being involved in coming to the center? How many times have I unfortunately had to have discussions with parents, arguments sometimes, to allow their son, their daughter to participate in religious programs? And their objection is, we want our child to get good grades, to get high grades. Wonderful. Being an achiever is very, very good, but never, never at the cost of falling short of your religious practices and your religious identity. The same way as you grow in school, learning multiple sciences all at once, parallel to each other. You don't do 5 years maths only and then 5 years science only after that. No, everything grows together. So should religion as well. And subhanallah, they don't have time for the center because they're doing their university studies or their high school studies, but they have time for the gym, they have time for soccer, they have time for family gatherings, they have time for little short trips. No one can say that they are too busy for them to be able to do something like this. And then when it is too late, they come to regret that their child no longer has any interest in affairs of religion, does not contribute to the community, does not volunteer, because you, the parent, created this mentality in the child's mind that your priority is your studies, your work. Religion and affairs of the community and society have no importance when compared to that. This is what is being referred to here, molding our personalities before it's too late, molding our hearts in what religion wants before it is too hardened for anything to be done.
So that you might be ready to accept through your intelligence the results of the experience of others and be saved from going through these experiences yourself. In this way, you will avoid the hardships of seeking them and the difficulties of experimenting. Thus, you are getting to know what we had experienced, and even those things are becoming clear to you, which we might have missed.
Next is one of the letters that Imam Ali alayhi salam wrote to people in general. Now, by the way, we all know that leadership is very, very important, and following is very important as well. Obedience is very important as well. What's the point if someone's giving instructions and no one listening? What is the point? And therefore, the same way as a leader has a responsibility, the citizens of a country, the followers of this leader also have a responsibility as well. Someone was mentioning this in a lecture, a scholar was mentioning this in a lecture. He said, we have so many instructions and so much emphasis on learning leadership skills. When was the last time we heard about learning following skills? To be a good follower. And that's in reference to us, isn't it? We who follow Ahlul Bayt, when are we reminded what it is to be a follower or following the leader of our community? Why do we think so independently, away from wanting to somehow join under the umbrella to strengthen the Muslim Ummah? All of you know Malik al-Ashtar, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh, one of not only the closest of companions of Imam Ali, but really a brave warrior and a master in leadership skills as well, which is why Imam Ali sent him all the way to be the governor of Egypt.
From the slave of Allah, Ali ibn Abu Talib, to the people who became wrathful for the sake of Allah when he was disobeyed on his earth and his rights were ignored and oppression had spread its coverings over the virtuous as well as the vicious, on the native as well as the foreigner. Consequently, no good was acted upon, nor any evil was avoided. I have sent you a man from among the servants of Allah who allows himself no sleep in the days of danger, nor does he shrink from the enemy at critical moments.
This is describing Malik al-Ashtar.
He is more severe with the wicked than a blazing fire. He is Malik ibn al-Harith, our brother from the tribe of
Madhaj.
Therefore, listen to him and obey his orders that agree with what is right, because he is a sword among the swords of Allah, the edge of which is not dull and which does not miss its victim. If he orders you to advance, do advance. And if he orders you to stay, do stay, because he surely neither advances nor attacks, nor puts anyone backward or forward, save with my command. I have preferred him for you rather than for myself, because of his being your well-wisher and because of the severity of his harshness with your enemies.
Of course, as I said, there are many things that we can learn from the Rasail of Imam Ali in Nahj al-Balagha, something that we need to look into, lessons in history, lessons in akhlaq, lessons in how to deal with others, even how you are able to deal with your enemy. None of that is going to be of any use if we don't put this into practice, if we don't implement these teachings in the way that we conduct ourselves while we are living. وغفر الله لنا ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. If there are anyone who has any questions or comments, please, by all means, yes.
Might be quite an awkward question for you, because once I say it, then you'll probably appreciate that. I think a major part of today was that we display Imam Ali's word and we read it as a group. I just want your comments on the tendency of Shia Muslims, especially, as a group that are so reliant on mudarris or on an alim to address them in just one way. Like he's preaching of the mimbar and we are passively listening instead
Listening.
of participating.
Yeah.
Do you think it will be a good habit? It will be a good initiative to continue our Thursday programs with having, like, a dua of Sahifa Sajjadiya on a screen, one of our youth reading it, and the group all together contemplating on it?
So, if I was to be very honest with you, and I mentioned this in the beginning of the sessions that I had, that I really wanted this to be interactive. And that's why always opening up for questions, for comments, and encouraging brothers and sisters to somehow, be more involved. I think this is really, really important. We have, unfortunately, fell behind in our duties in spending more time for ourselves and becoming more accustomed to being spoon-fed. And that's very disappointing. Why is it that we don't have halaqat? We call it halaqa, which basically means circle lessons. Okay, this week we're going to be learning verse number 35 from Surah Al-Ma'idah. Everyone needs to prepare for verse number 35 of Surah Al-Ma'idah. How long is it going to take you? 1 hour, 2 hours? You've got the whole week to prepare. You come, everyone's read different tafsirs, everyone's read different explanations. Everyone is ready to come and contribute and assist and help and talk. And this kind of interaction, especially when it comes with critical thinking, will not only resonate in one's mind, but it will drill itself into your minds. And it's disappointing that we as communities don't really have that level of patience and are not investing enough time in developing this. It can be in any language as well, whether that be example that I gave in tafsir of the Quran, or whether it be in what you mentioned, As-Sahifa As-Sajjadiyya, Risalatul Huquq of Imam As-Sajjad, Nahjul Balagha, anything of use, anything that anyone would passionately want to be involved into. And even if it starts off as a group of 4 or 5 people, it's very encouraging to do so. It's very important to do so. I would say, in a lot of cases, more important than just a monologue lecturer who's giving a talk and everyone else, as you said, passively listening. Although that has benefit, but not as much benefit of you maturing ideas in your mind through interaction and discussion, even if it turns into a healthy argument. I don't agree with what you're saying. You don't agree with what I'm saying, but we live as loving brothers, agreeing to disagree, because you read a tafsir and I read another tafsir. No problem. But that's something that I will remember for another years. What do you remember from the last lecture that the Maulana gave 3 months ago? This is where we really need to try to, and this was the sunnah of our communities, by the way. This isn't something new. It's always been the custom in masajid, in Islamic gatherings, where there is a time allocated for people to come together and discuss things. And that's what I would strongly recommend, whatever text it may be. Should there be someone who supervises, if there is a qualified scholar who can, keep the boundaries of the discussion within the healthy required perimeters, yes. If not, if there is a time where there is confusion or a misunderstanding of a text that cannot be solved, then making reference to a'alim would also be a good idea. But it's definitely something that we really, really need to introduce in our communities. We will stand up now for ziyarah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
توجه زيارة.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل عباس. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس. السلام عليك يا عنيس النفوس. السلام عليك يا مدفون بأرض طوس. السلطان العربي والعجم وأسيران الكوفة والشام ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والضمان. الأمان الأمان على العمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا مظهر الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته.
हज़रात मोमिन कल 7:30 7:30 पे कुरान खानी का आगाज़ और वो नमाज मगरिबैन से मुत्तसिल और उसके बाद फिर इफ्तार का एहतमाम, इफ्तार के बाद आमाल और फिर शहादत जनाब खदीजा सलामुल्लाह अलैहा की मजलिस होगी कल। तो आप लोगों से गुजारिश है शिरकत फरमाएं। शुक्रिया।